So many people say, hey, I want to collect Mythic Legions, but I'm just too late to the party. I can't get into it now. They're too expensive. It's not that bad. Watch.
Password?
Manhattan clam chowder?
No, man, that ain't it.
I guess it is too late.
Password?
Cabal above all. Welcome to the Cabal and Mythic Legions collecting.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt, often and usually called Big Nerdy. Together, all of us, we are the NWO, the Nerd World Order, and this is Cosmic Wave 1 came out last summer, and honestly, I've had quite a few people recently say, hey, did I miss a boat on Legions? How do I get into this? So I think it needs to be addressed. We'll start with, are you too late to get into this line? And the short answer is no, not at all. In fact, it's getting easier to get into it lately. So I'm going to explain why I think that is, and I'm also going to explain where to get started, because honestly, it can be a little bit overwhelming if you're new to this. So why do I feel like it's not too late to get into Mythic Legions? Well, frankly, you don't have to pay that crazy eBay price now. As Bill from the Dorkler says, never look back, because the prices are nuts. Figures go for up to $400. But thanks to a growing retailer community base, plus the existence of All-Stars waves, you don't need to pay the iron price to get these figures. You can be patient. Unless it's like a Grail or part of the Bird Wave, which we may never get again. It's a long story. You can just wait for the All-Star, unless you have that disposable income and you want to go grab Atamon. On top of that, the Four Horsemen's presence at conventions has grown substantially across the East Coast especially. Once or twice a month it seems like they are out at an event, so get out there and you can get those good prices. Also, just in general, the supply of new figures is going up. Because of the popularity of the line, the print runs have been getting bigger. They've been getting bigger initial orders, which makes sense. That's how you want it to happen. But because of that, there's more product on the market, which means that automatically there's going to be more product to meet that demand. So that's going to help keep the pricing manageable, especially with newer releases. Don't expect anything to jump up to like $100 over the initial price or something like that. And the other reason I think that now is better than ever, the Poxxus wave is upon us. As I film this, Poxxus is shipping to everybody who had their pre-orders, and we are like getting ready for the street date coming up. It is, in my opinion, the best wave to date. It's the introduction of some really cool soft goods. It's the introduction of the Fourth Horseman Poxxus on his mount, Pelagus. More on pronunciation soon too. It is amazing looking. You need to get this. It's as simple as that. Like, we sold out a while ago, but don't worry, we got more. I had to contact the Horsemen after this started to arrive in the States and say, hey guys, I sold all my pre-orders. Can I get some more? And luckily I was able to, because these things are awesome. But I just said a lot of word salad. Where do you get started with this? That is a great question. I'm glad you asked. So first off, for those of you who watch me talk about Hasbro a lot and might not have a clue what Four Horsemen are outside of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson,
we are the Four Horsemen!
Let me explain. No, too much to explain, let me sum up. The Four Horsemen are a toy studio out in New Jersey. The founding members have been working together for decades, and they brought us a lot of toy lines for big IP in the past. They did one of the best He-Man lines ever created. They did one of the best DC lines ever created. They are incredibly talented. In the early 2010s, I don't know what we call that now, it's like the 20-aughts or something, I don't know. But they started their own studio, and they launched their own IP, Mythic Legions. They actually had something before that, Gothalopolis, if I'm saying it correctly, but Mythic Legions is really where it took off. They are a very fan-centric company with a very unique business model in terms of how you acquire the product. And the IP itself that they created has a super deep story, like with lore and factions and everything you can imagine, but deeper than what you had growing up. Like, it is really awesome. There are three primary lines that the Four Horsemen do. There are Cosmic Legions, which are space dudes. There are Figura Obscura, which are basically public IP mythical dudes. Think Santa Claus or Headless Horseman. And then there is their main product that we're talking about today, Mythic Legions, which are mythical beings, creatures, knights, etc. If you're new, shopping for Legions can be incredibly confusing, like how it works, pre-order versus in stock versus where do I get them. And that makes sense because it's not like you can walk down a Target toy aisle and get these. Here's how it works, like the full pattern. A new wave is announced. They go up for pre-sale at Store Horseman. Their pre-sale price is going to be the lowest. That's not the retail price though. That is the pre-order price. It's like a bonus for ordering and paying early because you pay in advance. And you do it in a lot of advance. It can be 1.5 to 2 years. Poxis that's coming out, I have pre-orders that we got over 2 years ago by a little bit here. If you're okay with that, this is going to be the best discount you're going to get. However, in some cases, it doesn't really make sense. For shipping reasons or sales tax reasons, you might be able to do it just as well elsewhere. But if you want to get like everything, which they have all-in sets, which includes the entire wave, that's the best price you're going to get, period. Pre-ordering is in a window. It's not like Hasbro where you can pre-order something all the way up till the day it's released. It's a window. And they'll remind you, they'll say, hey, window closes soon. Usually it's between 30 to 60-ish days. And during that window, you can place your order anytime. But once it closes, it's closed. You can't go on their website and find stuff for sale. That's not how it works. After that, the day after their window closes, my window opens, the retailers. So we have a window to do our pre-orders. I'm going to use the basic figure's current price to kind of give you a range here. A basic figure is $50. Now, if you get it with the pre-order discount, it's $37. One thing that I hear a lot of people who are trying to help new people get in the line say, in fact, I heard Bill from Dorkler say it recently on a video I saw of him, that don't think that the pre-order price is MSRP. No, that is a pre-order price. That's a bonus price. The standard price is $50. And honestly, once you get into this, you'll see that's a good value for what you get. The retailer prices are actually set. There's a minimum that we can charge set by Fort Horseman.
Price is the price, yo.
Let's say you're not a fan of ordering online or you want to save every penny possible, then you need to check out conventions. And they are at a ton of conventions. They have special pricing for conventions. It's not that $37. It's somewhere in between that and the retailer price. Usually $40, $45, enough to cover the travel to get there to make it, make sense for them from a business standpoint. Then there are in-stock sales where they'll announce, hey, 3 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to have a bunch of product for sale. Usually the pricing for that, from what I understand, is somewhere between like convention and pre-order pricing. I've never actually seen an in-stock sale because by the time I get there, everything's gone. They're pretty rare. It's kind of like hitting the lottery, it seems like, for Legions at least. With Figura Obscura, it's a different story. Also with Legion's builders, it's a different story because they make a lot of those. They're like your army builder type characters. If you ever hear Legion builder, think army builder. I mentioned the phrase All-Stars at the top of the video. So what are All-Stars? Basically, it's a wave of reruns, so figures that were released in the past that they want to have another chance to get. Sometimes new figures are put in the wave too, like Dubon last year we got with All-Stars, I think 5. I'm trying to remember who announced that figure. It was so fun. Oh wait, it was me, and I guess I'm here too. But yeah, All-Stars are great because it gives you a chance to go back and get a figure from the early first, second, third waves without paying the iron eBay price. One of the other questions I get is, how do you collect this line without going broke? And that is a great question, because it can get very, very, very expensive. And my answer really is to dive in and find a focus and figure out what you like. And the best place to do that is Source Horseman, which is the Fort Horseman website. That place is like a treasure trove of information. So you're going to find lore. You're going to find faction information. You can find maps that look eerily like Westeros. You can find weapons guides, which are incredibly helpful when you're trying to identify parts or figure out parts that you want to get. Then there's something I discovered when I was preparing for this video, and that's the pronunciation guide, which I think they made just for me. Some people really keep it more focused than I do. It's like, I'm going to collect dwarves, or I'm going to collect knights, or I'm going to collect skeleton dudes. People are way better at this than me. So aside from finding a focus, how do you afford it? Budget, 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 budget. Figure out a monthly budget that you are going to use, and then literally, if you don't use it, move it to the next month. What I honestly recommend is getting a dedicated budgeting app just for your toys. This is going to sound crazy, but if you're like really in this, open a second checking account for your toys for budgeting purposes. Another option that a lot of people do is they use gift cards. They use Fort Horseman gift cards if they're going to buy direct. I have people use gift cards from their Zoic a lot just to budget. But really the big thing is finding a focus and then also learning the sales patterns. If you look at the last 4 years of Fort Horseman releases, they follow a pattern. A pattern. They seem to have one big Mythics wave a year, and it's announced at G-Con and Legions Con. So November, December, January, that is your big month for Legions. Like that is where you save all year to get for that month. Then for the rest of the year, as far as the Horsemen go, there's usually an All-Stars Mythic wave, 1 or 2 Cosmic waves, and then Figura Obscura. Again, it goes back to budgeting because you're going to have months where you don't need to spend anything on Mythics, and other months you're going to need a lot more.
I am never going to financially recover from that.
business.
But really, I mean, there's only so much you can do for budgeting. The trick is just buy what you want, what you don't want. If you have things that are not making you happy anymore, like if you bought a bunch of skeletons and you're like, man, those are not for me. I really just want to go with horses and riders. Put them online and sell them. Next one is more of an advice, and that is to explore the hobby aspects of the line. So a lot of people ask me about pop and swap. Basically, all of the parts pop off and are interchangeable. There's different body types. Some are more interchangeable with others than others. There's guides for this online. I'm not a pop and swap guy. That's not my thing. I'm not good at that stuff. But honestly, you don't really need any talent. It's just like an imagination. You can build your own characters. And people have built their own creations and actually had them adopted into the Mythic lore. On the more complex end of the hobby spectrum is customizing, painting, building tribute figures. The line itself does tribute figures to like a lot of He-Man stuff, and they do it for people who are like integral to the line's growth. But a lot of well-known customizers do it on their own to different IP. Right off the top of my head, Emil Wickman does the absolute best Marvel stuff. I think I've seen some Star Wars stuff from him. His stuff is incredible. Then there's the whole end of just creating custom dioramas, custom parts, 3D printing parts, making custom heads. One of the things that I thought was really cool the first time I went to any sort of show that had a big Legions presence was the amount of people who had head display racks with like 60 different heads that they either painted and changed, or they printed and then sculpted and painted. I don't know, it's well above my talent level, but I thought it was so cool. This falls under tip, and this probably should be tip number 1, but here we are. Join the Cabal, folks. You saw it at the top. You can't collect Legions without being in the Cabal. Cabal above all. Seriously though, absolutely best community of toy people on the internet. Do have to be prepared though, you're probably going to make friends, so if you don't want to make friends, who doesn't want to? Come on. Which leads me to a question I get: should I go to Legions Con? The answer is yeah!
Yeah!
Number 1 reason, I'll be there. I'm always there. I'm just kidding. That's not number 1. That doesn't matter at all. Now, the real reason is community. You're going to meet everybody who you just like post things with in the Cabal. You're going to meet all of the different people involved in the line. You're going to see a ton of Legions for sale. It's the place they sell more anywhere than any convention they sell out. They have the biggest selection. There's exclusives that are only going to be available there. There are surprises, like this year they just randomly dropped that Valiant Knight and people went crazy for it. There's also a ton of third-party customizers selling parts. There's a ton of dealers selling their Legions. It is just incredible. The thing I like most about it though is that it's all done on site. It's not like, hey, come over to the convention center and then you travel, your hotel's here. It's all in the same building. I love that, because after the show closes, people then just head to the bar, they head to the lobby, and they hang out and drink and just have a merry, fun, grand old time. My last tip, FAQ piece of advice, is to check out the people who make content surrounding Mythic Legions. Because it is a smaller IP compared to like Star Wars or Marvel, it obviously doesn't have as many creators with huge followings because there's not that many people searching that stuff out. So you're going to have to go search it out on your own. And I did make myself a quick list of some people to check out: Hedgehog Figures, Legions Lounge, 4-ish Horsemen O'Clock, which is the 4 Horsemen themselves, Mythic Customs, which is Jeremy. He is a big part of the 4 Horsemen now. Legions Ladies, which is a newer, I guess you can call it a podcast, or it's really a live stream, but it is all the different ladies who are into this, which is cool because I feel like there's a lot of male only in toys, so it's nice to get the ladies' perspective. And there's so many more. 1/6 Shooter Trevor, he does all of the product photography. He is not small, he's definitely on it because he does other stuff besides just Legions, but he has a lot of great stuff. He hosts or runs, or I don't know, Empires, the Legions Lounge, King, presides, whatever you want to call it. One other piece of advice is to keep an eye on the Source Horseman main page. They provide updates on every wave there. You want to know where exactly a particular wave is in the process? That's the place to do it. Really, more than anything else though, you need to get one figure. It doesn't matter who it is. I remember my first Mythic Legions experience very well. It was at New Jersey Toy Con. I saw the line. I'm like, what the hell is these people lined up for? Is Joey Buttafuoco here? But no, it was not. It was the 4 Horsemen. And I started talking to Joe, who is the godfather of conventions on the East Coast. That's my new nickname for him. I remember specifically what he said, like verbatim. He said, dude, you gotta hold one. And I'm like, all right, that's a little odd. But no, he's not wrong. Once I had one, I bought Malleus first, and then he sent me Lord Vateris a few days after that. It felt so awesome to have in your hands because the joints are buttery smooth. The quality is really nice. It doesn't have that weird sheen to them like a lot of the bulk-produced figures do. The different accents, the amount of detail that goes into it, you gotta hold them. If you want to see like my raw reaction though of like my first time really learning this stuff, check out this video here. And remember, you gotta get old. You don't have to grow up. Just be cool and stay nerdy. Later.